Good morning. Welcome to our Alexa Tech Talk. Build and manage voice experiences with Alexa for residential. I'm John Coyne. I'm a solutions architect on the Alexa Smart Properties team. Let's get started. So today we're going to talk a little bit about some residential living concepts. We're going to help you understand Alexa for residential, talk a little bit about fleet management, deployment, our move-in, move-out experience, talk about some Alexa skills in the residential environment. We'll, of course, talk a little bit about our API and what Tech Talk wouldn't be complete without a demo. And then we'll wrap up by talking a little bit about how to get started with Alexa for residential. So the data tells us that 84% of renters want an apartment with smart home amenities, 61% of whom said they would pay a monthly fee for a voice assistant on the property. That's pretty impressive numbers. So we'll talk about a few residential living concepts here. So everybody's familiar with the concept of an apartment or a condo, but let's dig into that a little bit. Apartments are typically leased or rented, and you'll have multiple dwellings in a building. So, I mean, it could be just a few apartments in the building, or it could be, 100 or 200 or 300 in a building. The turnover on these happens about once every 1 to 3 years, depending on when the renters want to move on and things like that. And you'll have typically a property manager, so like a management company or a landlord or something like that that looks after the property. Whereas a condo or a townhouse is typically sold. There are usually fewer dwellings on a condo or a townhouse development. The turnover is much lower because these are sold properties, like I said, and so they're appreciating assets. And the management is usually governed by a homeowners association who then hires a property manager. For the purposes of this talk, we're going to really focus on that apartment residential living just to kind of get started. So when we look at rental living challenges, renters really want smart living. They can't really install devices like light switches or thermostats or door locks even oftentimes in their apartments. They want it to just work. And of course, there's, with all the different vendors out there of smart home providers, there are lots of different devices out there to install and maintain. And when we look at the other side of that equation, the managers, they need a low touch solution. They need to be able to install it once, reuse it each time a resident moves in and out. They want to be able to put some preset integrations in there, like turn on all lights or turn on the dining room lights or things like that, so that the integrations will just be there. And they're, of course, going to want to be able to have a range of choice for different devices that they put in there. So you could see multiple brands come across, for instance, one brand of thermostat versus another brand of light switch versus a brand of smart plugs. And they're going to want to be able to ensure that same experience reasonably across the entire property. So if you have a 1-bedroom apartment in one side of the building, you're going to want to have the exact same experience in a 1-bedroom apartment on the other side of the building. I mean, the differences could be with, a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom, just more devices, but generally speaking, they're going to want to be able to have a uniform experience. So that's where Alexa for residential comes in. And let's talk about that for a few minutes. So Alexa for residential is really designed to give power to the property managers to be able to have a great experience for their residents as they move in. And that could be something to start off with, like a virtual tour. So when somebody says, "Hey, Alexa, I've moved in," the Alexa device can then respond back and give them a virtual tour of their brand new apartment about all the different things that the apartment can do. They also, of course, you could have pre-installed smart controls. So the units would come with those smart controls and the Alexa devices pre-installed. And of course, they stay with the unit when the renter moves out, which is important because now it can be turned and reused again, and they're not going to have to purchase more equipment after the renter moves out. The other thing that renters are going to want to get a handle on are things like amenities and maintenance on the property. So, maybe book the pool or the clubhouse or get help with an apartment. "Hey, I've got a problem with my thermostat." Rather than have to pick up the phone and call someone to get these answers, they can just get those answers or book those requests via the Alexa device. And then, of course, renters want personalization, right? They want to be able to combine their Amazon account so they have the full Alexa experience and their full Amazon experience on the device and the property, as well as the things that come with the property, like those amenities and maintenance capabilities or the smart controls, things like that. So let's talk a little bit about fleet management. I talked about that earlier. Fleet management is really one of the core pieces of the Alexa for residential system. Allows you to quickly deploy and manage multiple Alexa devices across the property with very minimal touch, to be honest. Another thing it really lets you do is gain insights on what's happening on the property. Things like, what are people doing with the Alexa devices? Now, you're not going to hear exactly the exact things that people say, but you're going to be able to understand by category what people are doing. Are they listening to music? Are they talking to a property skill? Are they asking for the news or the weather or what restaurants are around here? Things like that really gives you insight as to how the device is being used in the apartment. And of course, better places that you can innovate on the product as you move forward. We also deliver the product as a full web API so that you can integrate that management experience into your own experience. You don't have to send somebody out to a third-party dashboard. It can have that same look and feel as existing property that property managers would use. So when we talk about deployment, I mentioned a minute ago, it allows you to quickly and easily deploy devices across a property. So if you've got 10, 100, 200, 300 devices on a property, the rapid deployment feature really makes it nice because we can use existing Amazon technologies like our frustration-free setup, where you effectively set one device up and then the rest of the devices on the property, as they come online, they can pick up their settings from that first device. And then you just have to assign them into whatever unit that they go into, the apartment that they're going to go to. You can also pre-install your smart home devices from any Alexa-supported manufacturer, be a commercial smart home skill or even a residential smart home skill. And then, of course, you can get from the system, you can get an at-a-glance view of the various device states, what's grouped where, what device is associated to what apartment, things like that. As we move a little deeper into the Alexa for Residential product, one of our standout features is our move-in and move-out experience. This is very unique in the residential world because the property can be vacant, it can be occupied. And then, of course, we talked a little earlier about being able to link that personal experience from your Amazon account into the Alexa for Residential product. So in the vacant mode, you as the integrator have access to all the APIs of Alexa for Residential to change the device settings, enable or disable skills, et cetera, et cetera. In the vacant mode, the device will only work, however, with smart home skills and your enabled skills. And they'll have a limited set of Amazon experiences like the weather and the news and sports, but things like alarms and timers and music and other third-party skills won't work on the device. In the occupied mode, you as the integrator have access to most of the Alexa for Residential APIs, but the ones that impact resident experience are unavailable to the integrator. And those are going to include things like changing volume, changing the wake word, or changing the temperature and distance units. In that linked mode, the only API you're really going to have access to is the ability to change the occupancy state, to be able to change it back to the occupied or the vacant state. Other than that, we actually take the device and we put it in the actual resident's account. So it just becomes a part of their Alexa experience. And then they have the full Amazon experience available to them with the device. So let's talk about skills. So Alexa for Residential allows you to build a custom Alexa skill, but you don't have to actually do an account link. Account linking, of course, is in the retail Alexa world where lets you tell the skill who you are. So it knows when you're asking for specific things, what context it is. In Alexa for Residential, skills can understand what apartment is asking for things rather than the specific person, and it can respond with context. In that maintenance example that I gave, let's say I need help with my thermostat. I can ask Alexa for that help, and then what you would receive as a skill developer is you would know that that particular apartment is asking for that and not specifically who in the apartment is asking for that. Most of the other Alexa skills from the catalog are available to put on the property, and you can do those with account links if you so choose. You can also add retail smart home skills. You can also add commercial smart home skills. And when you're in that linked mode, again, like I said, any Amazon experience is available to the resident when they're in the linked mode. So I mentioned that we have a full web API, and I really want to talk about that for a minute because that's how we deliver the Alexa for Residential product. It's a full REST API to build the experience on, and it uses OAuth 2 authentication. And you can either use login with Amazon or you can use your own OAuth 2 provider. You can add, again, like I said, that Alexa for Residential experience can be built into your own property management experience. So using things like single sign-on and, again, that look and feel. So it really looks like your brand and not necessarily an Amazon brand. that move in, move out experience that I talked about, moving between the states of occupied and linked and vacant, that can be done from code. And you can code that linked experience into your application, and you can expose that to the user. So you don't have to, like I talked about before, you don't have to shoulder surf to help them get linked. You can just expose a screen where they sign in with their own Amazon credentials, and that moves it into that linked state. And I put a link up here to the full documentation. You can go to our developer.amazon.com. That link will take you right there. And you can go to our portal and you can read up on the entire API right there. Now for the fun part. Let's actually take a look at Alexa for Residential in action. So what we have here is our demo UI that our engineering team created so we could easily show how the APIs work. So you can see I've got my organization name up here, my user, and of course a list of the home communities in my organization. Now this organization just has the one currently, but what we'll do now is we'll create one. And we're going to call this, you can see I've been tinkering around with this. We're going to call this the Bel Air Apartments. And I'm going to go ahead and submit that. And you can see now we have two. Here's the new Bel Air Apartments and its unit ID. So to show you how that works in the API, I'm going to go ahead and send an API command via Postman. And you can see now we have the Bel Air Apartments listed in there. I'm also going to go ahead and I'm going to copy this unit ID from Postman, because what I want to do is I want to create a home inside this community. And I'm going to go ahead and do that rather than use a variable. I'm just going to go ahead and paste in. I'm going to go ahead and just paste in the home community ID here. So we're going to go ahead and give it a name. We'll call it Apartment 101. We'll go ahead and get this little placeholder out of there. So I'm going to go ahead and send that command. And you can see we got a 201 there. So then what we'll do is we'll go back to the UI and we'll go into the Bel Air Apartments. And you'll see that we have Apartment 101 in there now. Pretty straightforward. So then the next thing I wanted to show you is I want to show you the devices, the Alexa devices themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and click here, and this is going to show me all of my unassigned devices in my organization. So right now there's only one in here. You can see we've got an Echo Dot 4th generation. Now I can also do that in API over here in Postman. And I can say, show me the device. And this is the actual directed ID of that endpoint. But we'll go ahead just for argument's sake here, and we'll move back over to the demo UI. I'm going to go back to the buildings. I'm going to go into my apartments. And I'm going to go into Apartment 101. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a device to the apartment. So we're going to choose this Echo Dot 4th generation. And now you can see I've got an Echo Dot 4th generation assigned here. If I go back here to the unassigned devices, you'll see there's nothing in here. And then if I go back over here to Postman and I send this command again to enumerate, you'll see now it's empty because there's no unassigned devices in the organization. So if I go back to my apartment, we can also talk to the move-in, move-out experience. And I spoke about that a little earlier. The move-in, move-out experience is what lets you put the apartment in an occupied state so you can, add additional skills in that state. You can, then it shows up to the property management system like the apartment is occupied when a resident moves in, things like that. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to switch this over to the occupied state. And I'm going to say, send this to occupied. And now you can see that that apartment is occupied. And then from there, what I could do is I could also enable some skills. I could get this set up for the linked mode where I could produce a UI that then connects to my system so that the person could then sign in with their Amazon account and have that completely ready and available to them and be able to use all the services of their Amazon account. So just a quick look to see how things work here. And, of course, you can see over here in Postman, I've got APIs for literally everything you can do in the A4R environment. I can update endpoint settings. So you can see here, I can expand out. I can talk to the, do not disturb status. I can turn off setup mode privileges so the device can't be reset. I can change the time zone. I mean, all those different types of things through my UI. So that's just a quick look at the Alexa for Residential API. So hopefully you were able to see with that demo that there are some really cool things you can do with the Alexa for Residential product. I know I couldn't really go into a ton of detail just within the time allotted, but I'm sure we'll do some future talks like this where we can talk at length about some of these features. But you can see Alexa for Residential has a ton of power in the API to be able to manage the entire fleet of Alexa devices, integrate your smart controls, put it all into your branded experience so that it gives power to you and your customers. Next steps for you, really good get started, would be to head over to our website at amazon.com/Alexa Residential. Take a look around, and there's a contact us button there if you want to learn more, and we can certainly take you through it at some more depth. I also would like to take this moment to invite you guys out to our developer channel on Slack, and that's alexa.design/Slack. And that's a place where you can get really a lot of tips and tricks about building skills for Alexa. You can ask questions. There are lots of Amazon developers that hang out in that Slack channel that can answer questions on the fly for you, really give you some good information. And of course, Alexa Live is coming up here in July, and that's July 21st, actually, this year. That's an interactive virtual event this year. We normally do it as a live event, but we're doing it as a virtual event here for Alexa skill builders, device makers, startups, and business leaders that are really out there trying to learn about the future of AI and voice computing. At the live conference, you'll be able to learn about the latest advancements in our technology and explore the future of ambient computing. You'll have dozens of diverse breakout sessions. We'll have sessions on the Alexa for Residential product. We'll have some of our sister products there, as well as the full continuum of Alexa retail stuff. You'll hear about the latest innovations that are going to help drive business growth, improve productivity, and deliver a more delightful customer experience. The registration opens on Tuesday, June 15th, so don't miss it. We'd love to see you guys all there. And finally, we'd really like you to take a survey. The link's right here on the screen. Let me know how I did. Let me know what else you'd like to hear. We'd love to come back and talk more about this with you guys. And again, I really appreciate the time and thanks a ton. Hopefully everybody got to learn something. Thanks, and we'll talk soon.